Hi, and welcome to Diversity in the Community. I am so excited about my guest today. Well, one is not a new guest, but we have a young man with us today. We have founder and creator of the She Is Me and He Is Me projects, my sister friend, Sherree Sutton. And we have another young man that I heard him speak at one of Sherree's programs, and I was so touched. I said, I got to hear him again. His name is Errol Reid, and he's the author of Fighting Just to Dream. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, I'm so excited. So, Sherree, before we get into what's coming up, you want to just tell me a little bit about how you started the She Is Me and He Is Me projects?
Yes, I think I can tell you. I've been doing this now, 10 years?
Yeah.
By the grace of God.
Yeah.
And so thankful that it has brought us this far, because honestly, when I started it back in May of 2014, I had no idea that we would still be at it
After
10 years later.
Yes.
But that just speaks to that had to be God's plan for what was started out as my passion project. I started with She Is Me because being a woman and a black woman, I noticed that as women, we tend to be very critical of each other. We'll say something negative before we'll say something positive about someone. And I just got the idea that if we came together, shared our experiences, our stories, our journeys, it may help to get rid of that. The more we get to see how similar we are, regardless of where we came from, our backgrounds, our cultures, we're human beings and we're women. So that was how that got started. And honestly, you were there, the first event. We had so many people come up to us afterwards and say, you got to keep doing this.
Yes.
You just told my story, or that story touched my heart. Some people were in tears, honestly. And that let me know that I was on the right track. And I did what I could to continue. And this is where we are today. And I was raised to give whenever possible, whenever you see a need. And if you can fill that need, do it. So my way of giving back with the project is we launched our annual backpack and school supply giveaway.
Right.
And we've kept that up for 10 years.
For 10 years.
So I just feel blessed that I am able to continue with this, something that started out as a dream. And to see that dream come to fruition and survive for 10 years is just awesome for me. And of course, men, I had male friends, and they would say to me, oh, I can't come to your event, it's all about women. I said, no. Women may be participating, but what you have to realize, everything that impacts us impacts the people around us, our community. So you can still come and take something from it. But I decided to stop that comment. So I launched He Is Me.
He Is Me. I love it. I love it.
In 2018.
I love it.
So that they would no longer have an excuse not to come and listen to what was being shared. The intent was for my son to take it over, but as you know, he became a dad and COVID happened, and there were a little bit of delay in him taking over, but I'm proud to say 2025, he has decided he will take the reins this year.
I love it. I love it.
I'm handing over He Is Me to him after this next event. Yes. So that's
and so
would you
bringing the He Is Me piece in, added a whole new level. And I'm just going to say a little bit about our brother over here before we ask any questions or anything. Just to see the vulnerability of men and have them open up is a beautiful thing. Because we always see the men as, I mean, the strength is not just being, I've got control of this. The strength is too opening up. And the night when Errol, the night that you spoke at the what was it? What was the program?
He Is Me.
It was a He Is Me program. it just brought me to tears.
A lot of people.
Oh my God. So I am just so looking forward to the next event. And with you adding that level onto the program is just, it's just wonderful.
Well, She Is Me is a platform.
Yeah, right.
It's not so much mine, so to speak. I created it, but it belongs to everyone that's willing to come on board and share with our community, because sharing can be the first step in healing if you're going through something difficult. Sharing with the businesses in our community. I have a spotlight for folks to talk about what they do at each program.
Right.
Take a few minutes and say, if you have a business or nonprofit that you want the community to know about, feel free to stand up and tell us about it. That's another part of the platform, because
Right.
if we know what's in our community and who's doing what, then we can increase the support for businesses and nonprofits.
Right.
So He Is Me, same thing. It's a platform
Right.
for
right,
men.
Right.
Because a lot, like you said, we're not used to men sharing like
Yeah,
that and
stories,
opening up
right.
that way.
Right.
But it's amazing to see, because they're human too. And I think a lot of them have been raised to don't cry. Men don't cry. Nah, not true. If you're human, you need to release whatever's going on, tension, stress, whatever it may be.
Right. Right.
So men deserve that platform as well. So I'm glad that we were able to provide that. And I'm even happier that men are willing to participate.
Yes.
Because it's not hard to get a phone call from someone and say, oh, I'm doing this. Would you be willing to? And so far, thank God, everyone I've asked has said yes.
Wow.
And willingly said
Wow,
yes.
wow.
I didn't have to twist any arms or bribe or anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just amazing. And it just makes me continue to believe that it's something that was meant to be.
Yes. And so, Mr. Errol over here, we have a copy of your book over there.
Yes.
Fighting Just to Dream. Do you want to talk a little bit about your book?
I'll speak on the book in a little bit.
Yes.
One of the things, though, based on the conversation I've heard you have so far, and I know what you were trying to touch on in regards to taking the platform to another level, because it's in retrospect now, taking part in the event, I realized there was so much taking place. As you both observed and were saying to me,
yeah.
I'm just speaking from my experience. But when you mentioned the tears and the crying, it's beautiful in a sense, because now I'm looking at it in retrospect, and it's like transformative healing, not just from the male's perspective,
Right.
but also from the female's perspective. And when you have dual partnership in healing, I'm kind of odd that Sherree has created a platform, like she said, that's allowing for healing in our community.
Yes.
And I think that's
Yes.
so big, because I never looked at it in like the larger
Yes.
perspective
Yes.
until like sitting here and
Yeah.
hearing
Yeah.
and looking back and, taking it in. The book, Fighting Just a Dream, yes, I'm self-published on Amazon, but before I got there, Fighting Just a Dream started as a humble beginnings. I was sitting in jail in Maricopa County in Phoenix, Arizona. They said it was the #1 most deadliest jail in America. I was in one of the pods, and I remember just feeling lonely, abandoned, the sense of guilt that I had felt internally regarding my transition from Jamaica to America. The years of work I had put into academia, plus playing sports as a soccer player, and being afforded a scholarship to leave my island, where I knew over 3-point-something million individuals had a dream of coming to America.
Right.
Hence some of the topic of Fighting Just a Dream in the title. However, I just remember the urge to just do something with the energy that I was feeling, because it was unhealthy. The pressure I was putting on myself at the time as well. I interpreted what my son was going through based on my interpretation or my lived experiences being the son of someone who was incarcerated for nearly 20 years.
Okay.
And so that was huge for me because everything I thought and felt at school is where my father, I internalized as my son probably was feeling the same thing. So I will not use the term, but if you could lowers one's spirit to the most lowest form, I was the one saying it to myself. And usually I say it at this point, it's no one could tell me something now that would like truly challenge my worth because I've already done that to myself. And I spoke at the Racist Foundation, and that was one of the things that I also spoke about in regards to I was my worst enemy. And so I didn't even worry about other people in prison because it was just like my interpretation of what I had done and who I was, but now I'm here. And the reality of being here is so larger than just what I was trying to do, the great intentions of helping family or building a house in Jamaica, so on and so forth. I had to look at it from other perspectives now. The writing component of the book also healed me in so many different ways. It was like for the first time on pages, I started realizing based on what I was writing, how I was writing, telling my story, I also had a story. And my story, some of it wasn't mine. I saw that I was living in my father's footsteps to finish stuff that he had.
Wow.
I saw the trauma that I had repeated from both of my parents, my family members as well. Behaviors I exhibited, it was almost like writing the book was a movie and I was watching my own movie. And there were just so many aha moments to the point where I started crying. There were so many pages when I started writing where tears would have me ripping the pages writing because I was crying. I've had moments and I shared in my book because, again, the book was not with the intention of publishing. The book was just something that was raw, real. I call it the birth of the new me because I was so real. I say looking into a mirror that it wasn't an actual mirror. It was an internal mirror. But I went through a very traumatic experience after being released from prison. And I was in school getting my master's. And for the first time, I was living a life that I was not doing anything negative, but it felt like everything negative was coming at me. And so I felt like if I was gonna die, as I felt at that point in time, because it was that serious, at least the world should have my book.
Wow.
And that's when I actually sought the avenue of self-publishing, and it just kept blossoming from there.
Wow. Beautiful, beautiful. And writing the book, like you said, was like healing.
Yes, 100%.
In which you're a writer too, and you know from the book that you wrote
Yes.
that it's healing.
Yeah. And that book just sprang out of, like I said, journaling. I started keeping a journal since I was a little girl, growing up in North Carolina. And when that happened to my brother, I just wrote about it, how I felt.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, 5 years ago maybe, we were a member of Journey Writers. You introduced me to that writing group, and we were sharing stories we had written. So I shared a little bit about the story about my brother. He was involved in an accident over 40 years ago that left him with a 70% disability. And doctors had pretty much given up on him, but God had another plan.
Yeah.
And long story short, I read the story and everyone in the writers group was like, this is a book. And that's where I got the inspiration. And he and I were having a conversation one day. I went home to visit him, and he was feeling down about himself and, you know, not being able to do the things he used to do. And he was such a lively young man and could do, I thought, and still think, he could do anything. Very bright, very smart, take an engine apart, put it back together like it was nothing. So it broke my heart to hear him talk that way about himself. So I said, you know what, let me write this book to show him he is somebody, regardless of his disability and not being able to do the things he used to do. His mind is still as sharp as ever. And that was my way of making a tribute to him, letting him know how much he was my role model.
Yeah.
He was my inspiration
Yeah.
because regardless of what happened to him, he still kept his personality. He still kept his sense of humor. And the things that he was still doing for other people. And that's how the book was published.
Wow.
I never, like you,
Yeah.
I never meant to publish it. It was just my writing. And
Yeah, beautiful. You know, I read it a couple of times.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. We want to keep talking about what the date and the time. We're going to talk about that throughout the program. Now, the
Yes.
date, the time. Talk about that.
the He Is Me project, we decided to shed a light on incarceration. So the title of the event is Time Served. Life during and after incarceration, because I feel that there's a lot that we don't talk about that we need to talk about. There's a lot that we don't understand
Right.
about someone that has experienced incarceration. So it's time for us to come in, be educated, be inspired, be encouraged, be moved.
Yeah.
Whatever you get from it, but I know you will get something from it, regardless of where you are in life right now. So we're asking you to come out on Saturday, February 15th. Doors open at 5 p.m., and we will start promptly, guys, at 6 o'clock. I promise you. And one of our panelists is here today with me, Errol Reid. He will be one of our speakers, and other folks on the panel have also experienced incarceration. And this is a joint effort between She Is Me and He Is Me.
Yeah, I was gonna
Because we
say I saw
both-
one
yeah,
female
we
on there.
Both are
Impacted.
by incarceration.
Yeah.
So I have 4 wonderful individuals that, as I said, I called each one and said, this is what I want to do. Are you willing to be a part of it? Every answer was yes.
Okay.
So I am thrilled to have 4 people from our community from different walks of life, and they all have different stories to tell, but they were all impacted by incarceration. We're right here in Windsor, down the street at 378 Windsor Avenue. That's our home away from home, the Breakthrough the Wellness Center.
Yep.
So please come out, and you can get your tickets through Eventbrite or via Cash App.
How did you convince the panelists to participate?
I knew them, some better than others, or I should say longer than others. I just met Errol earlier this year. I was introduced to him by a business partner and friend, Violette Haldane, of Haldane Real Estate and Advocacy to Legacy. She's a woman that wears a lot of hats in the community. I don't know when she has time to sleep, but I was working on another project, and she knew about it, and we were talking about it, and she said, oh, I have someone that maybe you should talk to. And she gave me his information. I called him up, and we had a conversation, quite a lengthy conversation that day. But just talking to him, I knew that he was someone that could add to the program. So I asked him, and he said yes.
You were right. You were right. I tell you, I could just see the faces of the people the night that you spoke. It was like we want more. It wasn't enough. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
And the young lady on the panel, Betty Brown, I was in a play with Betty about 3 years ago, and that's how we met, but we became friends. And she also participated last year for Black History Month. We had a program on addiction and the impact of addiction on our community. And she was one of the speakers on that panel. And like Errol, her story moved so many people that night. I asked her to come back and share the incarceration side of her story, and she was more than willing. you're probably all familiar with Ruby's Realm,
Yes.
Dr. Valerie Ingram.
Yeah.
Her husband, Fitzritson. I have to always get corrected on that name. I have so many friends named Fitzroy, I always call him that, but his name is Fitzritson Ingram, and we call him Fitz. Hi, Fitz.
I was excited when I saw his picture. I was like, oh, I'm going to get the chance to hear him speak. I see him all the time, being with his wife, supportive and all that, but I've never really heard him speak.
So I asked Valerie, I said, do me a favor. Ask Fitz if he would participate, and she came right back and said, he's willing, yes, he'll do it.
Wonderful.
So it's just, I don't know, just amazing. To have, as I said earlier, you just make a phone call, ask a question, and you get yes. It's like, wow, I'm blessed. That's how I look at it.
So now, what kind of format is going to be that night for the program?
Errol will have a monologue. He'll do a monologue
Yes.
to share his story.
Yeah.
Because as you know, you witnessed part of it in the previous event.
Yeah.
And I felt he did not have sufficient time to
yes. I wanted to hear
share
more. Yeah.
all
I wanted
that
to
we
hear more.
needed to hear. So he will do his presentation during a monologue, but he'll also participate in the panel discussion with the other 3 participants. Yeah, so it's going to be a panel setup where I'll ask questions, folks will answer, provide as much input as they're willing to, and we'll do it that way. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A, because I'm sure people will have comments or questions for the panelists.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, because when you see somebody able to get up and tell their story, and you probably have a story too, but we witnessed it from other programs that you had, right?
Yes.
That people were like not telling their stories, but when they heard people get up and were able to tell what was on their hearts, then everybody. What was the program we had, and all of a sudden it lasted so long?
That was a mental illness.
Mental illness. People didn't want to talk about it, right?
Focusing on mental illness,
right.
And we did it in 2 parts. We had it from the perspective of folks that had family members that had dealt with it or were still dealing with some form of it, and you had a part in that. Folks talked about their experience being a family member or a supporter, I'll say. And because of the response we received, people had so many questions and so many comments afterwards. We ran over time, as usual. And I remember a woman came up to me after and said, you just told my story. But I'm busy trying to pack up and get out of the space because we had rented it and we were over time. I heard her, but I didn't really hear her. And she realized that, and she just kept following me around. She said, you didn't hear me. You just told my story. And that time I saw the tears, and I stopped. I'm like, okay, this is important. Never mind packing up. She has something to say. And so I stopped and I listened to her. She said, thank you for doing this. She said, because most people want to just push it aside and not talk about it. She said, but it needs to be talked about, and I thank you for doing that, and I'm asking you if you will continue to do it. So I said to her, I said, I will. I said, but I'm going to ask you something too. I said, the next time I do a program on mental illness, will you participate? She said, okay, give me a call, and if I'm ready at that time, I will. And sure enough, she did. The next time I called her, which maybe it was about a year or so later, she was ready and willing to share her story.
Yeah.
So there's things that we don't like to talk about in our community.
Right.
We try to put them on the back burner, but those are the things that we need to talk about.
Yeah.
So all of these different forums that we've been producing is for that purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not gossip.
And this one is this particular one is going to be so important, especially for our community. You know, there is life after incarceration.
And I did not mention we have another contributor
Oh, okay.
that was with us before,
Okay.
Mr. Devin Cheney.
Okay.
Remember,
All right.
he was in the, when we relaunched He Is Me.
Okay.
He was one of our presenters. Hi, Devin. So he will be back to participate as one of the panelists in this incarceration forum.
Okay.
Yes, didn't want to leave him out.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think I've asked all the questions that I had. Is there anything else that you guys would like to talk about? I know I'm just looking so forward. I want to try to get as many people as I can to come and see the program.
I like to ask people to just, whether you have yourself been impacted by incarceration, a family member, a friend, a neighbor, whomever, this is a very important
Yes.
topic
Yes.
for our community. It's been impacting us from more time than I can think about. It's part of, sad to say, it's part of our history.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I chose February. Because in my world, Black history is every day that I wake up. But
right.
February has been set aside as the month to acknowledge and recognize it. So I decided to host this event during Black History Month. But I read a report that was done in 2023. And there was there was a lot of items in that report that stuck out for me and made me sit up and pay attention. But the most important piece that stood out for me was they had done their research, and 1 in 5 Black men born in 2001 are the likelihood of them experiencing imprisonment
Wow.
is very high.
Wow.
So think about that.
Wow.
1 in 5.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, we don't want to get into the statistics because there's a ton of them out there, but that one just, it's like, and that's supposed to be an improvement over what's happened in the past.
Wow.
Yeah, and we are more likely to be incarcerated than pretty much any other race.
Wow. Wow.
So if that's not enough to make you want to hear it directly from the people that have been impacted personally by imprisonment, then I don't know what to say.
What do you think the reason why it impacts our, because we're more vulnerable, more, you know what I'm saying? You're driving down the street, you're doing something, you're more likely to be stopped. You're more, is it that or?
I'm going to answer your question directly, but I want to also touch on the mental illness, mental health impacts that impact our community and how we treat it as such. It's foreign.
It has a stigma attached.
Yeah. Even more so with men, because to speak on experiences and show vulnerability, even in that sense, is almost a sign of weakness. Or I can't handle, and I'm supposed to be tough and strong, like the man. I was told that never to cry, be strong like a man. What does being strong like a man look like? Mental health is one of those issues because I don't know what it looks like. What does that, or who do I speak to and have a conversation about my failures, challenges, my struggles.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important. That's also something I touch on in when I'm going to speak on incarceration, because that's like 75% of my book, literally focusing on my mental health and what is mental health. How do I navigate this when nobody even gave me a script to deal with it?
Yeah.
So I read the most I did around mental health and mindfulness. To answer the question about why I feel, statistics says African American are most incarcerated race in America. And I don't like to do this a lot and speak on the past, because my goal for 2025 is to be present.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
However, there was this thing called slavery, then indentured servitude, and leaning into incarceration. There had to be a population that was fulfilling this need.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if I just transition from slavery to being a free man, what population then becomes the hegemonic or the dominant
Yeah.
based on power, right?
Yeah.
Let's just be
Right,
honest.
right, right.
In politics and information, I don't know what I don't know, right?
Right.
Even
right,
raising
right.
my voice, who dear I, because there's this transition still going on.
Yes.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
when we talk about incarceration, we fail to realize even in a community, I could literally just be having a conversation and my tone of voice, my body language, my posture, everything gets broken down and I'm identified as this.
Yeah.
And we all do it,
Yeah.
to be
Yes,
honest,
we
in
all
some way,
do.
shape, or
Yeah.
form.
We all
Yeah.
do.
And I think for me, that's why this is important.
Yeah.
The
Very.
conversation that we're going to be
Very.
having.
Very.
Because we might all be doing it and putting that stigma on that individual, not even knowing, we're realizing we're doing
Exactly.
it. I think this event is so strong and important. I think even families should come out.
Yes.
The
Yeah.
reason for that is,
Yes.
as an individual the son of an individual that was incarcerated, I never had conversation with my mom about emotions and feelings that I was going through. You know, but being in an environment and having these conversations, we're addressing so much.
Yeah.
And you have the
Yeah.
real-time
Yeah.
opportunity to ask these questions and not
Yeah.
even just listen to the dialogue, because I'm sure there's going to be stuff that's going to come out.
Yeah.
She always brings a huge level of psychological safety in that
Yeah.
platform,
Yeah.
where I feel like everybody would want to speak. You hear her talk, come
Yeah.
on.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah.
So, like I said, I'd encourage everyone, February 15th, be on time, like she said. And I'm pretty sure there's going to be a great conversation and
Yes.
dialogue there. So
Yes.
Yeah.
I won't even get into it.
I mean, just listening to your passion, compassion, or whatever, speaking now.
Yeah.
I just want people to come out and hear,
Yeah.
you know, you and the other people speak, because I think it's going to just change the minds and lives of so many people. Because so many people are so afraid to be, like I said, vulnerable. I mean, when you make yourself vulnerable to the audience, you never know who you're going to touch. And
Yeah.
if he can, then I can. Then you're giving people hope.
Yeah, we don't have the mirror perspective. We don't see that usually from my environments. And I'm Jamaican, we're very aggressive. So
Yeah.
thinking about, even as I represent who I am now, and I shared this in our last communication, like even my mom says, "Who are you?" You know, because she knows this version of me that does not exist anymore, you know. But I have this thing where I say to myself, thank you for thank you for bringing me here and for not knowing what you did not know.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah.
You know. But I've had to hold space for myself to have those conversations. you
And
know.
I'm glad that you referenced that comment that your mom made to you, because I agree with you that families should come out as a family union.
Yeah.
And this may not be a popular statement, but this is my personal thought. And it comes from people that I know, friends that I know, sharing their experience with me.
Yeah.
And telling me, we talk about our childhoods all the time. And for example, Jamaican people, a lot of times I'm considered Jamaican because I have a lot of friends that are, and I'm not. I born and raised in this country, grew up in North Carolina. But having this conversation with friends that I'm really close to, and talking about our childhood, we basically compare notes. Our upbringing was so similar. I grew up in a Christian household. My grandmother was Baptist.
Yeah.
Church every Sunday. During the week,
Yeah. Me too.
you know, very strict.
Yeah.
Sunday school.
You must keep your house clean at all times. Someone comes by, you must offer them food, not something to drink, but some food. And that was my grandmother. If you came to her house and didn't want to eat, she was offended.
Yeah.
And talking to some of my female Jamaican friends, they grew up the same way. So what I really wanted to say is family, a lot of times, as you said, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
And sometimes our culture and our experience within our family sort of lays the groundwork, so to speak,
It's
for someone to wind up in that
Yep.
situation, especially with men. Young boys growing up in a single family household. In their minds, they start to think, oh, I got to be the man of the house. When they don't, but we don't know that. And the mother, not saying she's intentionally doing this, but her actions or reactions sometimes may cause that male child to think he has to step up to the plate and take over for where the missing father is. And that's not the way it should be, but it is. And that we have to admit it. It's part of our culture that has caused that.
and incarceration, as well as I think migration too. But I was gonna say, when you said the boys having to become men, because I was one of those boys that didn't have really much of a childhood, because again, the accolades and the wall didn't pay the bills. Still saw my mother cry. That made me internalize a lot of different things.
Yeah.
But there's this quote, and I believe it's nature fills a void. So if you see that void, even if so many times, like, I think boys don't even understand what we're doing, you know, taking on those roles. But you also mentioned something that's super amazing. So culture, religion, and academia are so intertwined to the point where so many times we can't even tell the difference.
Yeah.
And I think that's important to just sit with.
Yeah. Yeah.
My little grandson is 4 years old, just to put a story behind what I just said. It just happens. He's 4 years old. My house is just me there. There's 2 other houses that he may spend time. His home, his grandmother's, his other grandmother's home, and one of his grandfather's home. Now, in all those homes, there's 2 adults. Husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it may be.
Right.
When he comes to grandma's house, it's just grandma. So he said to me the other night, he goes, Grandma, I'm moving out of my room. I'm moving into your room. I said, no, Miles. Grandma has her room. I took what used to be my son's room and converted it to a room for him because I wanted him to have his own space because he spends a lot of time with me. No. So he gets all his little animals and he's marching into my room. He's literally moving in. He goes, Grandma, you don't have anything in your hand. Get Mr. Teddy. He goes in my room, starts rearranging stuff. Grandma, this is my side. This is your side. So I'm dying because I'm like, this kid, 4 years old. So I go in the bathroom to get changed, put on my pajamas because I don't change in front of him and all that. He's like, Grandma, where you going? I said, I'm going to put on my pajamas and get ready for bed. You already have on your pajamas. I can help you. I said, no, I'm good, Miles. I got it. He goes, well, if I'm your boyfriend, I can help you. You see that?
Nature fills a void.
In his mind, the other 3 houses where he spends time, there's 2 adults, male and female. My house, there's not. So in his mind, he's going to be my boyfriend.
He has to be the male.
Wow.
Interesting, right?
I couldn't believe it. I had to text his dad. He was at work, but I texted him that night. I said, you're not going to believe this. Miles thinks he's my boyfriend now.
Yep. See, the representation, though, is very important. The mirroring, the watching the movie, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, we'll save that topic for the day of February 15th. Won't get into too much of that now.
But that just solidifies it for me that a lot of times it's just you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
And they see certain things and it's like, oh, okay, this is the way it should be. There's no male in grandma's house, so I'm the boyfriend.
4 years old.
4 years old.
Amazing. Amazing. I want to talk about again where it's going to be, what time, how people get their tickets. And we can't talk about the price of tickets, but where to get their tickets and who they will call. I know
Okay. Combined effort, I'll call it. Combined effort. She is me and he is me. This is our first combined project. So you don't want to miss it.
Yes,
We're
yes.
focusing on both the male and the female, so no one has an excuse not to show up. There's something for everyone. Bring your entire family. Saturday, February 15th, right in the middle of Black History Month. And believe it or not, folks, this is part of our history. We may not like to admit it, but it is. Part of our history, February 15th, Saturday, doors open, 5 o'clock. We will start promptly. Please don't text me and say, hold, wait, I'm coming. No.
Right.
We are going to start at 6 o'clock promptly. We will have vendors on hand. If you want to do some shopping and support some local small businesses, please do so. We will have a monologue by Mr. Reid, Errol Reid, and we have 3 other panelists that will share their experience, their personal experience with life during and after incarceration. The title of the event, you can search for it on Eventbrite. It's called Time Served, Life During and After Incarceration.
Okay.
But we will talk about incarceration itself, how it impacts us, and why we should pay attention, and why we should want to hear from those that have experienced it. And I'm going to ask you to leave your judgment at home, please. This will not be a space for judging others. We're not supposed to do that anyway. We're not God.
Right.
So
right.
please leave your judgment at home. Bring everything else, though. Bring your family. Bring your credit card, your cash, if you want to shop with us and support the local vendors in our community.
Will you have any books there, or did you just have to
Yes.
go on Amazon? You're going to have books.
I usually just direct individuals to Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
And Errol's book is available on Amazon. That's where I got my copy, and I implore you to buy it and read it, please. I can't describe.
Yeah.
It's emotional. You're going to be on an emotional roller coaster. You're going to be inspired. You're going to be encouraged. But most of all, you're going to be educated. A lot of times we hear that someone served a sentence. It's like, oh, this, that, the other. That's why I'm asking you, please leave your judgment at home. Don't come with the intent of judging someone because of what they say they've experienced with incarceration.
Right. Right.
Again, tickets are available on Eventbrite. Search for Time Served, Life During and After Incarceration. Or for those of you that don't like Eventbrite, I can't blame you, folks.
I know.
Don't like paying those extra fees. You can Cash App me directly. My Cash App is $Sherree, Sherree, paid, Paid. And once I see your payment, I will set aside your ticket for you. And of course, folks may not be able to decide if they can make it until last minute. We will have tickets available at the door, but you will need to get there before 6 o'clock.
Now, you do have a phone number.
Yes.
This phone number you
You
can
can
call.
email me if you'd like more information about the project. It's SHEIZME8@gmail.com. She is spelled with a Z instead of S. Me, 8@gmail.com. Or you can call or text 860-794-3831. 860-794-3831.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Is there any last words anybody want to say before Mr.
Come and
Errol?
join us.
Yes,
Yeah.
please, please. All are welcome.
All right. All right. So I really thank my guest today, and I've been knowing Sherree for a long time, and I witnessed Mr. Errol a few months ago, and I was really touched. I'm telling you, if you guys come out, you're not going to be sorry. It's going to be a time well spent. And I want, when this this YouTube video come out, I want you to share it, because we have, we love to share some crazy stuff on Facebook and all that. But please share the positive, especially the you guys that have young men, you know, that may need some good advice, even young women now. Please share this with them. Bring them out. You know, again, it will be time well spent. I thank you guys for hanging in with me. I've been on this station since 2008. So I really thank you. I appreciate you. And we're looking forward to seeing you. And we thank you for continuing to watch Diversity in the Community. Have a good day, night, morning, whenever you watch this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Theresa.
Thank you for having us.